There's been a lot of interest in self-sufficiency, preparedness for a wide variety of things. It's a topic I've been immensely interested in since 2007, and I've always enjoyed interviewing people on their own perspectives on how to be prepared for a wide variety of challenges that may be coming in our direction down the line. But I think that there's also time that needs to be spent on the do's and don'ts of setting up your own preparedness group. I think you need to be mindful with it. There's a lot of people out there that are interested in being self-sufficient and being prepared, but they're coming at it from a lot of different angles, a lot of different perspectives, different levels of understanding. And at times we got to be a little bit accepting of that and mindful of that. Because ultimately this is about coming together on the issues that affect us all when it comes to living off the grid and living without the dollar system. There's a time and a place for politics. There's a time and a place to share your view on the New World Order. And it doesn't always have a place in a true preparedness group that's focused on solutions and doing things. Now, I've been interested in holding meetups, putting together, assembling groups when I was in Portland. And being that it was I that organized the group and certain types of individuals that are against the New World Order are likely to come to my groups. At times it was draining because the conversation never left the problem and fears and asking me, Alex, what if this and what if this, as if I'm the person to give them those answers, again looking for a leader. So it felt draining. And there were less people coming to the group that were willing to take the time out of their personal schedule to plan for a backpacking adventure. There was some progress that was made on the purchasing of bulk food storage, and that's an asset to developing a group. People pooling their resources for orders like that, so people can live more affordably, feed themselves more affordably, and that's more important now than ever with the increased economic decline, economic crash alone. Just simply less money, more need to save. It's good strategy to buy food in bulk and to get that practice. But beyond that, it was difficult. It was difficult. So at times when you're looking to create a meetup based on survival skills, maybe survival skills that is for the whole family, not just the individual or a community, you're going to have to set that intention out when you create your meetup. Or you post on meetup.com, or you post on facebook.com, or you start putting up flyers in your own local community, at the store, at the library, places like that. And one of the reasons that I feel compelled to even bring up this topic is because I went to 2 different meetups in the Colorado Springs area in the last week. Both of those groups very, very different from each other. Both of those groups, the people going inside, sitting down and listening to the information, very different from each other, and I'm going to explain how. The first group, it was completely non-political, and it was taught, that night they were teaching how to read a map, topography skills, map reading skills. And it was taught by people in uniform, the military, if you will, but not an official military class, but people that were in the military. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean, and I was taking this in, okay, you're going to learn some education on basic survival skills, navigation skills, and I looked at some of the other things that they have coming up later on, how to clean a gun, water storage containers. They have a guy every now and then come through that sells large water containers for cheap, 55-gallon drums for $20. That's a good deal. So I was seeing the aspect of that being proactive and going, well, can't exactly talk about the New World Order with people like this. Maybe you can talk about certain issues. Maybe I could talk about China with some of them. But certain issues just may be taboo. And the question is it really necessary? In order to be prepared and develop skills, is it really necessary that we go there? So I'm taking this in. I had my first experience with this one group that was very focused, dealing with map reading, and there was enough maps for everybody to practice. But then I went to another meetup, And on their meetup page, I don't need to get into the names, and I did give my YouTube channel to some of the people that were at this second meetup, and I hope they're watching this video now and they took the time to get to know who I am and why I came down there to meet others of like minds. But I hope they don't take offense to what I'm about to say. The second meetup on their meetup page was all about being anti-New World Order, okay? Pro-civil liberties, being prepared for anything. And the frustrating thing about, she's inside. She's inside. I'm on the phone here. The phone's close enough. I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone. Life in Colorado is definitely much simpler than life in Texas. And I'm also grateful that there are people that trust me enough to be here and care enough about the message that they want to make sure that I'm not homeless in my current adventures. So I'm grateful for both of them for that experience. And kids are great. But speaking of kids, that's still leading us to our topic at hand. This group was so hardcore about being terrified of the New World Order, the mass extermination, all of it, that there was like this decrepit energy to it. They were all much older. And they seemed to be a little bit, as I'll get into very shortly, resentful against children or upset that a child was there. This child, in fact. And I brought a lot of quinoa because I wanted to share a very healthy, nutritious grain with other survivalists. And there was a lot of unhealthy food that was at this potluck. And I think the quinoa was the healthiest thing that was there. So I'm glad that I was able to introduce that to a few people there. But it became clear to me right away that this was not a group that was going to be focused on preparedness that evening. They're going to be watching, and I'm sure it's a great film, Behold a Pale Horse. Now, it's 2012. I just got to say, I've been into this, folks, for a very long time. We drove up 60 miles from where we live, east of the Rocky Mountains, into Colorado Springs. For this meetup, we did not drive that far to watch a movie we can buy ourselves or watch online. This is not some 9/11 group, where people will just watch David Ray Griffin tapes over and over and over and over again. Ooh, and there are people like that, from Portland to Dallas to, I'm not sure about New York, but in a lot of American cities where they have 9/11 groups, some of them don't venture beyond that and look at the larger world. And that's fine, because they've chosen to live their life a certain way. I'm all about free will. But for others coming in, that are on another level, in particular in this preparedness group, we came there for that. We're not come to watch videotapes about why we should be prepared, because that's all I've been talking about for years. And mindful preparedness groups aren't going to make people sit down and hear their own propaganda or ideology for hours and hours and hours about why to be prepared. It would be assumed that they came to that meeting to begin with in order to learn those skills and develop that community, because they've already reached the conclusion that we should be self-sufficient, that we should be able to develop our own food source, have our own food source, access water, and have basic skills, develop community, the basics you already know. That's why you go to groups. And I'm looking at how things are unfolding here. The movie's starting. I had some interesting conversations with some people. However, the way that we were communicating, at least with one guy, and if he's watched this YouTube channel, hey, thank you for checking it out. But the way he came across was almost as if he thought I was a cop. And he's grilling me, why are you here? And I'm explaining a little bit about my story and doing the anti-New World Order media over the years. What are you going to be doing in Colorado? Almost as if like I'm on a mission because I'm younger than everybody twice my age. And these are the type of people that would end up loving my show. But of course, appearances are everything, and the young bucks come in, and people are just like, who are the new people? And I felt like their community-oriented energy was non-existent. They had their potluck, but it still felt isolated and within its own bubble, and I felt that was unfortunate because a very large part of preparedness is about community and, as we're moving into now, families. Now, I'm with a couple, and it's their first time actually going to a preparedness meeting of any kind, and that's also one of the reasons that I came to stay with them, to pull our resources, put our minds together, and figure out what can we do, right? what is possible. Now, it was difficult for the father because he's almost exactly my age. And they have their 2.5-year-old son, who you heard from earlier. And he's a good kid. But, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. And I understand that sometimes they can be distracting. But he was doing a little bit of at the table in front of him. And the mother, she took him out several times. And I didn't feel that the noise was completely outrageously loud. I just got to say that. It was something that made me nervous a little bit, going, oh, I kind of saw it coming. Kind of saw something coming. So in a way, it was a test for me to hold my own frequency and still embrace the experience of going out trying to meet new people, but it not really turn out the way that you would have liked. I remember whispering over to Tim, going, well, I'm fine either way if you want to leave the movie earlier or blah, blah, blah. I just remember shortly after that, this person that I was talking to earlier, I'll refer to him as Angry Mountain Man. Because, of course, I'll talk to people about foreign troops coming and what I see about this coming stage war with China and how I just felt a draw to Colorado, and the negativity you get from people. I know about the military bases, but nobody needs to talk down to me about how bad it is. Because everywhere I go, I find people that say they're awake and they're just obsessed with telling you how bad it is, and you really just don't know how close you are to death. And it's really, really unbecoming. It's really disempowering. And it's really a part of what they want us to be subscribed to, constantly worried about death and not actually doing a damn thing about it because all is lost. And I felt that energy at this so-called preparedness meeting. A very pessimistic, depressed, they're everywhere, it's just... Sorry, actually I haven't smoked for 4 days, so I'm actually letting out some of the phlegm or whatever you might want to call it. I'm here reaching my hand out to these groups to provide my energy as well, my understanding. But you know what? I came down here, came down there. I talked to the guys. I worked the room. I'm Alex Ansary, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk shop about the NWO. Let's trade some facts. What do you see coming down the line? And do that exchange. That whole male bonding thing for about a good 15 minutes as we ate our food before the movie started. And the movie started. And it's time for the community interaction to go down and time to just start worshiping the screen. Ah, yes, the screen. Woo! The screen, the TV. We're going to watch Behold a Pale Horse. It's like I'm back 10 years ago in Portland, Oregon at the 9/11 Truth Group. And all we're doing is watching videotapes. And just sitting back going, oh, the world just doesn't get it. We are just so fucked. Folks, man, we came from all over. Some of them probably drove from the country to get down there to Colorado Springs to watch a movie. A movie. Behold the Pale Horse. Hey, I met the filmmaker in Austin, Texas at the Ron Paul rally. I'm sure it's great. Would have loved to see the rest. You see, but about 10 to 15 minutes in, for a little bit of that, the child doing that. Angry Mountain Man. The whole all is lost kid. Says, do you mind? And then that was all. That was all it took for Tim just to go, you know what? We're good.